Welcome everyone to our LinkedIn Live presentation. You might be viewing from LinkedIn or YouTube. We're also streaming on our Facebook channel. Welcome to the live stream. If you want to interact and ask questions, some of our teams should be in the chat. I will not be able to see what you are saying throughout the presentation. However, I'm happy to follow up with any questions you have. If you want to email me directly, my email is mike@tiretalent.com. If you're just joining us, again, this is the 2023 Tire Industry Employment Trends webinar, where we're going to be presenting various data to help you make better hiring decisions in 2023 and beyond. Without further ado, I will shrink my screen so you can see the presentation, and I hope you enjoy what our team has prepared for you. I'm going to now eliminate my video, and here we go. Okay, so just to briefly review the agenda. First, we will review the macro employment data. This comes directly from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Secondly, we'll look at tire employment specific BLS data. We've prepared a few slides. And the next portion will be an actual tire industry specific survey that our team did through in the start of 2023, where you will see what's important for employees in our industry today. And lastly, we will conclude with improvement opportunities. This is a bit more subjective, although there is a lot of data-driven evidence. Basically, it's through our lens, how we are seeing hiring managers and teams win the talent war that we're currently facing in 2023. So, a bit of background on myself. I am an executive recruiter in the tire industry. I founded Tire Talent back in 2015. I've spent my entire career in the automotive industry. You may have also seen some of my columns that I frequently write for Tire Business. So, shout out to Tire Business Magazine. And a bit of background on who we are. So, Tire Talent is a boutique search and recruitment firm that specializes in the tire, auto, truck, OTR, farm, and ag space. We, of course, also recruit for various companies that are in the rubber industry. More specifically, the types of positions that we recruit on are C-suite, sales, engineers, logistics, operations, succession, or confidential recruiting as well. So enough about us. Let's jump right into the macro employment overview. So this is an older stat, but did you know that 1 in 67 jobs posted on LinkedIn were 100% remote? Fast forward, in August of 2022, it was 1 in 5. In February of 2023, it was 1 in 8. So what this data is telling us is that for the jobs that were posted or currently posted on LinkedIn, pre-COVID was pretty rare, 1 in 67. However, as we fast forward to today, we see that it is decreasing from 1 in 5 to 1 in 8. However, it is still very high percentage based on pre-COVID of what is 100% remote versus non. So looking at the upcoming slides, you'll see some data again around the BLS, and I want to make sure we cover the definition of labor force. So what is the labor force? When you are listening to your various news outlets, I'm sure we've heard this term before, but the definition is simply a formula of employed plus unemployed, and that equals the labor force. The BLS's actual definition is below, but basically it's 16 years of age or older, residing in the 50 states plus DC, who are not inmates or in other institutions such as mental facilities, and who are not active duty in the armed forces. What is a recession? A recession is two consecutive quarters of declining GDP. This has been the standard, although we may have seen this recently. We haven't actually declared that we were in a recession since COVID. However, many macroeconomists claim that we should be heading to one shortly. I think we've all heard um, this potential in various other news outlets. And of course, this impacts companies' appetite for hiring. All right, so jumping into the current U.S. labor force. So currently today, there's 166.7 million individuals in the labor force, which is higher than January 2020 of 164.4 million in the labor force. So the gray bar in the middle of the screen from that you see there, that's a recession or COVID. You see how it dipped down quite a bit, and the trajectory has been growing ever since. So November 2022 was the first time we surpassed pre-COVID labor force levels. So although we are higher on an absolute basis, percentage-wise, we could actually see that we still haven't recovered pre-COVID levels. So our participation rate is currently 62.6% versus pre-COVID 63.3%. So we have a ways to go from a participation rate. Again, this presentation will be available to you after via PDF. Also, this presentation is being recorded so you could reflect back. We thought it would be great for HR to be able to understand the landscape throughout the US from an unemployment standpoint. So the highest unemployment rate states, we ranked the top portion: Nevada, Washington, Oregon, Illinois, Delaware, California, Pennsylvania. And then we stack rank the lowest being South Dakota, Nebraska, North Dakota, Alabama, Montana, New Hampshire, Utah. We've also stack ranked them all so you could take a peek post this presentation. The unemployment rate for 2018 to 2023 is shown in this graph. Again, if you look at the middle of the graph, you will see that gray bar that represents a recession. Again, this was during that COVID era, and you can see the unemployment rate skyrocket and then gradually taper off to today. So going back to the pre-COVID levels, January 2019, we had a 4% unemployment rate, typically a bit more normal, 4% to 4.5%. It spiked all the way up to 14.7% during COVID. And then fast forward to today, we're currently hovering around 3.5%, which is quite low. And a lot of the markets or segments are still quite competitive. Yearly job openings in the U.S. from 2010 to today. So again, that gray bar being COVID, you see the drop of openings and then spiking all the way up. We are tapering off currently under 10 million job openings, and the availability of unemployed individuals is currently below 6 million. So when looking at this graph, I think there's a couple takeaways. One is there's obviously a disconnect between the number of job openings and the unemployed. Second is digging deeper into the way that this job openings are calculated. One flaw that I came up with is you could have 3 different job openings for the same exact role, and it's still calculated in here. So for example, if you have a job opening, Chicago, New York, LA for an analyst, but you really only have one headcount open, you're just advertising in 3 areas, this is considered 3 job openings from the way that I understand this is calculated. So we actually think the number is quite a bit lower. Also, anecdotally, a lot of the job postings, being that they're remote, are really what we call purple unicorns. Not a lot, but a certain segment, purple unicorns, meaning that they're extremely rare skill sets that are nice to have openings. But companies know that they are very low chances of that person actually applying and getting the role. So we believe this number is a bit inflated. Taking a look at the quit rate by industry. So the highest quit rate was in the accommodation food services at 5.4%, and manufacturing, which I know a lot of folks are on this call in manufacturing, had the ninth highest quit rate. And the quit rate is simply calculated by the number of quits during the entire month as a percentage of total employment. Quick slide on CPI. So CPI is up 5% from last March. We think it's important to show this slide because it's just more expensive for our employees to live day to day, right? So we all hear eggs, gas, etc. Housing has risen quite a bit since COVID, and year over year, still today, we're still trending higher. Quick overview on Canada, couple slides. So the highest unemployment rate was in August of 22, 5.4%. And the lowest was June and July 2022 of 4.9%. The current unemployment rate hovers around 5%. The labor force participation rate was 65.6% of March 2023 versus pre-COVID of 65.8%. So you could see versus the US, it is trending a bit more aggressively in the right direction in terms of recovering pre-COVID. Looking at some specific tire and auto employment data here. So total employees in tire manufacturing dropped 2.4%, 23 versus 22. We don't know the trend driver. We just know that there was a drop 2.4% in total employees in tire manufacturing. This is looking at 5-year employment in all of auto retailers. So auto parts, accessories, and tire stores. Again, you see the dip in the middle there. That's COVID. And speed up to today, we have surpassed pre-COVID total levels. So more people are working. 19,500 more people are working in these auto parts, accessories, and tire stores versus 2022. Looking at auto retailers from a gender perspective, so we saw growth for both males and females. Again, this is auto parts, accessories, and tire stores. Employment in tire dealers. So this is tire specific. There was a 6.9% decrease if we look at January 20 to January 2023. However, there was a 0.72% increase from January 22 to January 23. So that concludes our Bureau of Labor Statistics tire/auto specific metrics. And now we will jump into a poll that we ran earlier this year for 2023 to various employees throughout our industry. Over 593 were polled. So first question, which describes you? Basically, we were looking for if you work for manufacturer, wholesale, or retail. You see the breakout here, 46% work in manufacturers as the number one pick, followed by wholesale, followed by retail. 58% were in sales, followed by operations and marketing. Current title, so primarily manager, director, or coordinator specialist roles took the survey, but we have C-level VPs and interns that also took the survey. First question was, are you satisfied with your current base salary? Over 50% said no, while 48% said yes. So a bit of a split there. Do you currently work remotely? Almost 50% work remote. Or another way to look at it is 70% are hybrid or remote. So, does your current job align with your career goals? 65% said yes, 35% said no. On a scale of 1 to 10, how supported do you feel in your current role? 5.9 out of 10 was the average. Is flexibility more important than compensation for you in 2023? 52% said no, but a pretty even split there. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to look for another job outside of your company? You could see the breakout here. As recruiters, we always feel that really everyone's open to another opportunity. Does your job allow a good work life balance? 77% said yes, 23% said no. We believe a trend driver here potentially, because it's risen so much since the last survey we did, is because there's so many hybrid or remote based roles today. How proud of you are your employer brand? 5.5 out of 10 was the average. Do you feel you can grow within your current company? 57% said yes, while 43% said no. Do you regularly receive constructive performance feedback from your manager? 54% said yes. So 46% said no. This is an opportunity for you as a hiring manager or a leader within your company. Don't wait until the end of the year. We could give feedback a lot sooner, more regularly to our employees or team. What benefits do you wish you had with your employer? Again, out of the survey results, these were the top picks. Do you feel that you could grow within your current company? 54 said yes, while 46% said no. How much do benefits matter to you? 8.2% said that they're out of 10 said that they're very important. So 82%. Do you believe your manager values your feedback? 75% said yes, and 25% said no. And the three main takeaways from our survey was satisfactory around the base salary was almost a 50-50. So most are not most, but a good amount are not satisfied. Does your job allow a good work-life balance? Overall, it seems like many were. So this is a great positive. And is flexibility more important to you than compensation for you in 2023? So looking like a pretty even split here in terms of how important flexibility is for employees within our industry. So here is a poll that actual LinkedIn did in their Global Talent Trends 2022 report. And these are the top priorities. So 63% said work-life balance. And this was above comp and benefits and colleagues and culture. All right. So now we're going to chat about, from our standpoint, how hiring managers can take action. So everything we've seen to thus far um, is all from the Bureau of Labor statistics, highly data driven. This next portion is our thoughts on how hiring managers could take action. So it can be a bit subjective. However, we feel that there is a lot of data behind what we're about to share with you because we're in the trenches every day speaking with candidates, hiring managers, executives, HR, etc., within our space. So we'll start off with number one: implement a structured hiring process. So all too often, Companies fail to do this. So defining a structured hiring process, following proven frameworks are really a must in our mind. The benefits really include reducing bias in the interview process. You also get to gather useful data through HR analytics, and streamlining the interview process also makes for a much happier candidates. So again, my email is mike@tiretalent.com. I could provide free third-party links that you could follow that are 100% for free and are simple to use, right? Because I think that's the key as well. Doesn't have to be extremely robust, it could be extremely simple. When we think about hiring throughout our different organizations, we most likely aren't professionals in terms of interviewing, right? So if you have a hiring manager, most likely this hiring manager may not hire full time for a living, right? So being able to give them a structure around how to interview, what questions to ask, ideal candidate profiles, etc., and this framework, we believe, will bring a better um, candidate experience, which is the next uh, point. So, from a candidate experience standpoint, what I like to think about is when I walk into my favorite hotel. So when I travel throughout the US visiting different executives, I typically like to stay with Hilton properties. And the reason is it's typically always the same type of experience. From when I check in with my keyless entry, if it's available, to the types of rooms and layouts, etc. So if you think about your favorite hotel or your favorite store, how does your candidate experience measure up to this? From the moment they see or hear your brand or your job opening to all the touch points along the way, consistency is key. So being transparent with your interview and overall hiring process and timeline, and of course, keeping it short as possible. These are really important from a candidate experience standpoint. It's one of the biggest pitfalls that we currently see with hiring managers really not holding themselves accountable to a timeline to hire, um, thinking that there's something better out there when they've already interviewed a half a dozen candidates, um, coming back 90 days later, and the top candidate in that first month that was interviewed really at that point it lost interest in the opportunity and no longer excited about the role. So providing a positive candidate experience is truly important in today's market given the 3.5% unemployment rate. Next one is knowing your market, right? So when we looked at that recent LinkedIn stat, with so many jobs being 100% remote on LinkedIn, what other types of positions are you competing against when hiring? So if you have an office in a metro such as Atlanta, Nashville, Chicago, New York City, Los Angeles, or any other metro, right? What else are you competing against? So if you're hiring for an analyst position that's 4 to 5 days a week in office, how does this compare to other LinkedIn job openings um, that are being advertised in that area? If you're in the same salary range as the 100% or heavily hybrid role, um, based on the data that we've shown, employees rather have a remote position, you're competing against these roles. So what is it in your market that you're offering that your competitors aren't? That's just one simple example. Obviously, if you're another type of role would be an engineer with a specific skill set that you're looking for, and it's only a fair salary, for example. So, are your requirements too strict? Why are you losing candidates to other companies? We really need to make sure that we're gathering intel, even if we do or don't have it prior and during the search, so that we can make data-driven decisions throughout the interview process. And certainly, this is something our team can help you with, or another specialized recruiter. If you don't know your market, they should be able to bring this value to you. Another example I hear a lot of manufacturers speak about is industries that are non-relevant to our tire industry opening up, down the road, something government contract related, etc. That's just able to pay much more competitive or higher rate for hourly workers, for example. Knowing your market and seeing what this other type of company, maybe you aren't able to compete on hourly wages, but there's some other way to get creative and bring value to those employees to stay competitive. Opening up the requirements. So if you're struggling to fill a role beyond 90 days and properly source the market with outbound strategies, you need to be more flexible at this point in time, in our opinion, with what you are looking for in the marketplace. So it could be a hiring manager really that's stuck on the requirements and being able to be more open minded. But one thing that we always need to keep in mind is how much is the business losing by having that open position. So we can make assumptions that the average cost of vacancies can amount to tens of thousands, or in my opinion, in some case, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars over a normal hiring window. So we need to be looking at a cost benefit analysis of keeping it open for too long versus opening up the requirements and being more flexible on who you're actually hiring for this role. The next is sell, then vet. So I think this is probably in my top three in terms of importance. It's really not the other way around. So again, we're hovering around this 3.5% unemployment rate, although it may trend higher this year. You need to sell your company and vision to the candidate marketplace if you want the best candidates. I find that a lot of companies want to vet first and then sell. So let's just keep in mind, going back to that candidate experience number two, we really want to sell them. So what's the vision of the company? What is the vision of this position that the new employee or teammate is going to take on, so that they can go the extra mile for you when they come on board? And then we could vet them and make sure that they are an actual fit for our team or company. Hope that makes sense. Sell, then vet. The next is get active, get outbound. In our mind, job boards just aren't cutting it. They aren't enough. They should be part of the solution, not the whole thing. Target your ideal candidate profile with a sniper approach versus a shotgun approach. So get active, get outbound. I think that's is pretty self-explanatory. So we can keep it really simple, or we could become pretty complex in terms of our strategy of how we actually execute that. And I'm happy to answer any more questions around that on how we actually do it. If anyone wants our strategy or on how you could implement it on your own HR team, more than happy to share any free resources that we have. Employee referral and incentive program. So how do you bolster this even more? It's really by incentivizing your team to pay for. It's incentivizing your team through cash payments or bonuses on actual referrals for potential employees. So your current employees, your current team know your culture the best. They understand what it takes to thrive. Why not incentivize them internally to make potential employee referrals? And I think the eighth biggest takeaway is around talent retainment and mental health. So our employees, our teams have been through a lot in this new world. I think even more stress has been put on our top performers. Focusing on talent retainment and the team that we have and mental health, I think, is critical. Um, the employment engagement organization Limeade conducted a recent survey that surveyed 1,000 employees who started a new job. 40% had left their previous jobs due to burnout. So burnout, I think, is pretty typical in terms of what we hear when candidates reach out to us looking for a new opportunity. So these are our top 8 for 2023. Again, more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Schedule a one-on-one, again, 100% for free, to be that resource for you. Thank you so much again for joining today. My name is Mike Chaffee from Tire Talent. My direct email is mike@tiretalent.com. If you want to just email us on our company email, that's info@tiretalent.com. Our website is tiretalent.com. Feel free to check that out as well. Again, I write a monthly article that's featured on tirebusiness.com as well. And I try and share that as well on my LinkedIn. So please follow me on LinkedIn. I hope you've gotten value from this webinar. Any feedback on anything that was missing, more than happy to take a look and see if the data exists. Again, that BLS data that you saw us present comes directly from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. All we did was put it in a graph format. This PDF will be available, downloadable on our website. We'll come back after and put the link as well once it's all posted live on the various comments and on the LinkedIn feed again. So happy Wednesday. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope everyone has a great finish to Q2 and April here. I wish everyone the best in hiring in 2023. And thanks again. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.